Most sane people out there realize that winter camping is insane, and that's probably why they're afraid to try it. So in this video, we're going to give you some helpful tips to get you started winter camping and to prove it can actually be fun and totally warm and comfortable. So the first tip is when you get to camp, you just want to
Did you just do the whole intro in there?
Dude, the acoustics in here are amazing. It's so much better of a place for a voiceover. And I got the bathroom right here. For the past year, I've been using a bunch of different products from Keen. They're the sponsor of this video, and they sent me out some boots to try out for this winter. They are the Keen Revel 4 mid-polar boot and have the Keen Polar Traction outsole that received a snowflake rating. They actually have fiberglass, like microscopic small pieces of fiberglass built into the bottom of the boot to provide traction on all types of terrain, especially when it's cold outside, like ice and snow and that kind of thing. So the slipping doesn't happen nearly as bad as these. As a matter of fact, I gave a pair of these boots to my 83-year-old father because I don't want him slipping when he goes out and walks on an icy driveway in Wisconsin. So you notice on the bottom of the boot, it has these lugs, and in the lugs are the shards of fiberglass to help make it slip resistant. So in these types of conditions, I would be buying and wearing boots just like these. It's got a spot for a gaiter. I've been wearing gaiters in this snow because this snow has been like, how deep? Probably almost a foot or more in certain sections. So even with boots like this, I would certainly still be wearing gaiters. And I've been hiking. We've probably hiked 1.5 miles in these so far today. I wouldn't hike farther than that in boots like this, but they're awesome, man. I love these boots. You know, one time I actually wore trail runners in snow like this on a backpacking trip.
How'd that work out for you?
It did not work out well at all. I was trying to be like tough and didn't care, and I wore trail runners. It was literally the worst experience of my life. It was so bad. So for sure, this is what you want to be wearing: proper footwear for your backcountry experience. Footwear is so key. Footwear is so key. Keen. See what I did there? There's really nothing like having a good fire in the wintertime when you are backpacking. But even being around the fire, you can be really cold. It's only 6 p.m. right now. I mean, it feels like 10 p.m. because it's so dark out, but we've got a ton of time before we're going to bed. And what you don't want to have happen is for you to get cold early, and then you're just miserable the rest of the night. So a good tip is just to do camp chores, chop some firewood, clean up around camp. Whatever you can do to stay busy. And I'm not saying like do 3 hours, 4 hours worth of camp chores, but whenever you start getting cold, get up, move around. It's going to keep that core temperature moving. And you never want to like go in your tent right before bed, ice cold. You don't want to like get in the tent and then try to get warm inside the tent. That's terrible. It's going to take forever to get warm. So, right before bed, do some jumping jacks, do some more camp chores, do something to get that core temperature moving and raising up again, so that when you get in your tent or when you're right before bed and you're planning on sleeping through the ice cold winter, you're going to actually be warm out the gate, and you're going to stay warm inside your bag, your sleeping bag or whatever you're in. Okay, another classic backpacking hack that is out there is get a Nalgene bottle or some type of a bottle that can handle really hot water, and then right before bed, fill it up with hot water and stick it inside of your sleeping bag. And it will literally act like a mini heater all night long, all nice and cozy, warm, like a little mini radiator. And then by morning, it will actually still be warm, depending on how hot the water was. But man, there's nothing more cozy than having a nice warm bottle of Nalgene water next to you all night long. And also, make sure the cap's screwed on nice and tight. If you're really worried about it leaking, throw it in a gallon Ziploc bag or something like that to sort of have that redundancy. But yeah, absolutely works. Awesome little hack. Okay, Gordon, where did you tell me the last time that we camped together, where should we put this? What do we do with the hot water bottle? Like if we're just maybe hanging out around camp, what are we supposed to do with that?
Just put it up by your armpits.
Put it in your armpit.
Yeah.
He told me if you put your hot water bottle in your armpit, there's like an artery, right?
Yeah, you got like your main arteries are there, and that'll keep your core warm.
Yeah, your core. Okay, and I did it. It worked.
Yep.
So like it warms up the blood, right? It makes it flow around. It's like armpit, boom. I'm toasty warm, and I have a smelly Nalgene. Now what? Okay, and then obviously hand warmers are like duh, of course, bring hand warmers, right? These are the ones that I recommend. They're by a company called Hot Hands, and these are the 18-hour hand warmers, and they really last 18 hours. Like 18 hours later, this will still feel warm. Now, the only, like, I don't even know if it's like a downside, but the only thing I would say about these particular hand warmers is that it says in the back that they can get up to 163 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's like, isn't that like the interior temperature of chicken that you're supposed to cook chicken to?
Yeah, or the sun.
Or the sun, yeah, exactly. So my point is, don't put these directly on your skin because it's like a frog in a kettle. Like you just don't even realize how it's burning you because you'll wake up in the morning and you could legitimately be burned. And this also could potentially burn like the nylon of like, say, a sleeping bag or a tent. So you really got to kind of be careful with these, like maybe wrap them in something first that's not going to melt. But yeah, these are awesome. Tons of these always around camp at wintertime. Always helpful.
So obviously one of the biggest things you want in winter camping is to stay warm in your tent while you're sleeping. Out the gate, probably the most important thing to do is to buy a good sleep system, not a sleeping bag or a sleeping pad, but a sleeping system where they're working together. So I've got a properly rated top quilt. This is a top quilt. It's similar to a sleeping bag. It just doesn't have a back on it. So it acts more like a blanket. And then I also have a properly rated sleeping pad for winter conditions. And if you have only one of those that's rated correctly and the other one's rated not correctly, it's going to ruin your night. You're going to be cold. They've got to work together. They have to work in conjunction. If you do have a top quilt, you're going to want to make sure that you have pad straps like I've got on here. And then I have another one as well, but I disconnected it in order to get out of the top quilt. But that's going to make sure it stays attached and doesn't have any drafts there. But then some of the things that I do to stay warm at night is the hand warmer like we talked about. That went into the foot box of my top quilt. I bring an extra, just sort of an extra hood in case my head gets really cold. And then I also have a pair of down booties here if my feet get really cold. And then we talked about the Nalgene. I used the water this morning, but boiling some hot water, putting some hot water in here, using that like a heater is always super helpful. Having an insulated pillow is also really helpful. Something that's not an air pillow, something that's gonna keep your head nice and warm underneath you, not gonna suck the heat out of you. And then also, one other thing that you could do is keep some sort of a layer underneath your pad. Just kind of not only add a little bit of R value, a little bit of warmth, but also stop that pad from sliding around at night. So that way, when you put your arm off the pad, it's not going to feel like you're in the snow. And then I didn't wear my big puffy jacket when I slept. I took that off. And if there's ever times in the night you're starting to feel cold, you can take that puffy jacket and lay that over as extra insulation over certain parts of wherever you're getting cold. Or, as the night goes on, you find you are going to get really cold, you can just throw this on as added insulation as well. So in other words, if you have a sleeping bag that isn't rated properly, or maybe it's, at that cusp of just getting really cold, this can increase that insulation for you. So that's going to help out as well. And then one more thing that wouldn't have worked here, because there's probably 12 or 16 inches of snow, about 12 inches of snow here. But you can, if there is no snow, but it's still wintertime, really cold, and you have the ability to get, leaves or something that's going to provide insulation under your tent and put that under your tent as well, that can actually be a really helpful way to sort of boost the insulation under you and not have that cold ground pulling all that heat out of you as well. So keep that in mind in winter camping. And then if you can get a nice tent that's got a double layer like this, like you'd be surprised how much heat even this net portion will actually hold in. When you unzip that in the morning, you can literally feel cold air rushing in even through this. It's amazing. And then one other thing too, if you want to make sure that you don't wake up wet, make sure you ventilate your tent well, open up the vents. I know it sounds counterproductive. You don't want to have heat loss, but you also don't want to wake up wet either. So hopefully that helps you guys out with some tips to stay warm out winter camping. It's been awesome, right, Gordon? It's been fun.
It's really fun.
We've had a blast, man. This is a beautiful place, totally warm. And I can't wait to come out here again. So we'll see you guys on the next one.